So there's this old man who lives in this fairly large home by himself. He's fairly well known within the community. And he's fairly well put together. We'll give ourselves just 20 more seconds, just feeling into the space, both mentally and physically, of our practice tonight. When it feels appropriate for you, let's transition from the shape we're into tabletop. We're going to offer our body just a real brief little warm up here. Just building our tabletop stability, thinking about the foundational strength of this shape, and feeling the fingertips grip into the mat. Let's curl our toes and we'll roll our seat back into a little down dog. Getting your weight to shift back into your hips. Remembering that the knees can bend here. We overconsumed some carbohydrates this weekend. The musculature may be a little bit more sticky than we're accustomed to. And then let's come down to hands and knees tabletop. We'll flip the tops of the feet and sink our way to child's pose. As we land our way back into child's pose, once again, just feeling the interplay between how our musculature is setting up tonight and how our respiration is encouraging more release, more ease. Just 15 more seconds here as we respirate through release. And as it feels appropriate, let's pull ourselves to hands and knees tabletop. From hands and knees tabletop, we'll once again develop that base, feel the fingerprint energy, exhale out, tuck the chin, tuck the tailbone, arch the spine, feel your way into this flexion space. And we'll inhale in reverse course, drop the tailbone, lift the chin. Lift the tailbone, lift the chin, drop the belly. There we go. And that's reverse course. We'll exhale out. Tailbone tucks, chin tucks, spine arches. And when it's appropriate, inhaling and reversing. Chin and tailbone lift, belly drops. Think about what's going on across the shoulder girdle and how that can impact anterior expansion. And then let's relax our way back to neutral. And one more time, we'll curl our toes, lift our seat, and roll our way back into down dog. Pedal out a little bit here. Give your body this opportunity to explore asymmetry, explore asymmetrical expansion. Think about where those restrictions are most showing themselves. And at the same time, think about getting the weight back into the hips and continually finding more and more room. And then when it feels appropriate, let's come down to hands and knees tabletop, and we'll extend our legs straight out in front of us for a little staff. And as we settle our way into staff, let's grab our props, both of them. And from a shelf fold, we'll just go hot dog with both of them. So we end up couple of blankets sitting across our lap. And let's start by just placing our forearms on those blankets. If you get here and this doesn't feel like enough, we have that opportunity to fold over and to offer a little bit more lift and support. And you can do that with both blankets, right? Both blankets or towels. You can create a pretty good amount of height here. And then we're using our forearms as another prop. So the forearms are coming into play, palms up if that's accessible for your shoulder rotation. And chin tucked. I think it could be argued that this is a more challenging position for many of us than a full expression of forward fold. There's a lot of lower torso musculature required in a more upright shape like this. And so we're not going to be here super long. This is going to be about another 30-ish seconds of hold. Goal here is just to feel the posterior chain without fully activating the end range. Just to feel what the posterior chain is feeling like this evening at a post-holiday practice. And then when it feels appropriate for you, let's set our... You can leave your props where they are. You can set them to the side, whatever feels most ideal for you. Props can be out of the way. Hands are going to come down behind us, fingers facing towards the space behind us. And we're going to allow the torso to shift back a little bit so that we get a little bit more ease through the torso. And then just lift your chin and squeeze your scapula together. Gazing relatively straight upwards, but you could have a little bit of an angle more towards the front of your room. Nice engagement at that subscapula musculature. So you really feel the shoulder blades working their way towards one another. Almost like you're trying to get them to overlap. They are pretty unlikely to do so unless we have some pretty significant structural dysfunction going on. But it's probably theoretically possible if you injured your shoulder enough, you could do that. Don't do that if that's possible for you. Just towards one another. And then we'll relax out of this back to a more neutral staff alignment. And from our staff alignment, let's take our blankets or towels and place them underneath the knees. So while this is a similar shape to the one we were just in, the propping is different and the expression of the musculature is going to be different. So we're going to work our way more towards a traditional alignment of forward fold. You have the blankets underneath you. You have the towels underneath you. You can double those up once again so that you get a larger lift, more support, if that feels appropriate for what's going on in your posterior chain. Once again, our goal is not to overtax that posterior chain. The goal is to connect to what's going on within our body and really feel in to how the musculature is responding to this ask of expansion. So this old man is known for being pretty well put together, but he has this one room. This room in his house that is more or less just storage. And it is storing quite a lot of things. So much so that it's kind of become this room that is avoided, that is closed off, that is forgotten about in the best of times. But on this particular day, this old man had been cleaning out some shelves in the garage. He found a couple of old knickknacks that he wanted to give away someday. And so he had brought them inside. He'd opened the door to this room. And as he opened the door, there was like a little bit of there was like a big wave of anxiety that hit him. We're going to give ourselves just 30 more seconds here. Just remember, we're just trying to feel the posterior chain here. We're not trying to overexpand. We're not trying to outdo ourselves. We're just trying to feel the musculature. Last 5 seconds. And when it feels appropriate, let's bring ourselves back to staff. We're going to take our props out from underneath us and just set those to the side for a moment. And bring the bottoms of both feet together. Let the knees fall out wide. Now, if getting into this shape doesn't feel comfortable for you, you can certainly take those props and help prop yourself up so that you have some support. And you can do that on both sides. So just remember that that option is there. We're going to clasp our hands over our toe mound and make sure that the big toe mound side of the foot on both sides is pressed together so that we have a little connection there. And let your torso tilt forward. It's likely going to naturally be wanting to do that. And let the chin tuck. And one more time, we're just trying to feel the posterior chain. We're not trying to overexpand. We're trying to put our posterior chain into an opportunity for some gentle expansion and breathe and feel into that. And we'll give ourselves just about 50 more seconds here. So this old man opens this door and this wave of anxiety kind of washes into him and by him into the rest of the house. And he sees this room and it's cluttered, right? It's a room that many of us are likely familiar with. It's cluttered. And that day he decides he's going to do something about it. When you're ready, let's bring our spine back up to vertical and extend our legs. We're going to take both of our props and they're both going to be folded hot dog style and stacked and slide them both underneath the left leg. So now you have an asymmetrical height placement of the left and right leg. Left leg is elevated, right leg is grounded or relatively grounded, depending on how tight the hamstring might be. From this shape, you may already notice that the abdominals have to work hard. The lumbar starts to get out of place if we don't have enough core engagement. We're going to take ourselves straight forward into a fold, reminding yourself that you can bend both knees. Even though we have the asymmetry here, both knees have the opportunity to bend. They may bend at different amounts or angles. In theory, the left leg should be feeling less tension. If you're not experiencing that, then I might say bend the left knee, like hyperbend the left knee so that you get the left leg to feel less tension. Our goal is to put less tension in the left leg here. So if you're not experiencing that with the elevation, do more bending to see if you can recreate that sensation of less tension on the left side and a little bit more lengthening capacity on the right side. And I promise we're not going to do forward folds the whole practice. And so this old man decides he's going to do something about it. He gets in his car. He drives into town. He drives straight to the hardware store. He goes inside. He buys a latch and a padlock. He goes home. He installs the latch on the door and the door frame. He puts the padlock through the latch. He locks the door. Problem solved. And in many ways, the problem was solved. He stopped worrying about the room. When he'd have people over, it became a little bit more of a conversational point because there's a door with a lock on it. He lives by himself. So people would ask. But in many ways, it was a relieving thing to have the lock because he never had to worry about someone else opening the door. And so they might come over, they might ask what's behind the door, why the lock, and he'd always just kind of laugh it off, say, nothing but a mess. Truthfully, nothing but a mess. Last 30 seconds here. Try to relax into that right side expansion. See if you can feel that transcend the lower body and come up on to that QL musculature, that quadratus lumborum on the right side, as it runs along the spinal column. See if you can feel expansion along the spine here. And then when it feels appropriate for you, we're going to walk our way back to a vertical spinal alignment. Take our prop out from underneath our left leg, and we'll move that over to side two. Right leg, lift, elevate, support. And so we add in this height asymmetry. Same thing, different side. We're hoping to take some tension out of the right leg now as we take ourselves forward into a little seated fold. I do think this is likely going to be the last seated fold, so last half of the sequence here. Just ease yourself into this. Remember that your right knee can bend significantly. Remember that the right side may be dramatically different than the left side, and so that you may need to make a significant shift or change from what you did on the first side. And so for years, this old man lived in this house with this padlocked door. Every now and then he might open it to put something inside or to look for something that he might have felt was left inside. But the door was pretty much always locked. And the worries were pretty much always gone. If and when he did open the door, he was always hit with that same rushing wave of anxiety. But for the most part, it wasn't there. Out of sight, out of mind. Last 45 seconds here on this second side. Think about what's going on beyond the lower half of the body on the left side. Think about that QL musculature in the same way that we impacted on the right side. Can we get expansion on the left? And when it feels appropriate, let's bring our spine back to vertical. We can take those props out from underneath us. Let's take both props and do the same thing with them. We're just going to roll. So from your hot dog fold, we're just going to roll them. So we end up with kind of a little barrel. We're going to place that underneath the left knee. And we'll do the same thing with the second and place that underneath the right knee. And so our goal here is to have two pretty solid supports underneath the knee with roughly equivalent amount of density. And then we're going to lower ourselves onto our spine. Knees lifted, lower half of the body relatively supported here, and upper half of the body from the sacrum to the crown of the head, neutral against your mat. Taking in all of that space that we've crafted. One night, as this old man was getting ready for bed, he's in the bathroom, he's brushing his teeth. And he hears this creaking down the hallway. His whole body freezes up. And he slowly pokes his head out to look down the hallway. Doesn't see anyone, doesn't see anything. So he tiptoes out, trying to make as little noise as possible as he steps on this hardwood floor. Hardwood floor creaks with each step, no matter how hard he tries to be silent. And And he gets to the end of the hallway and he's standing right next to the locked room. And he's looking out into his living room and kitchen area. And he's nearly startled to death as this like creaking, moaning sound radiates from the locked room behind him. And that terror quickly dissipates. He realizes it's likely just stuff in the room shifting. Maybe moisture leaving some of the wood. He's had the fire on all day. And so he walks back and finishes getting ready for bed. Kind of chuckling to himself that he was so terrified of that sound. And it turned out to be nothing at all. Again, not an unfamiliar experience. Give ourselves about 60 more seconds here. Try to feel the sacrum relaxing a bit here. When it feels appropriate for you, let's take those rolled blankets out from underneath the knees. Grab one of them, and we're going to use the roll so that the end of your roll is mostly at the top, right? Not directly on the top, but just so that we have a nice level, equal density. And you'll see what I'm talking about. We're headed to a bridge. So we're going to take that roll and place it underneath the tailbone. So tailbone lifts up, sacrum comes down on that roll. The shape here is pretty different than the way we normally use the blanket. Normally we're using the blanket and it's more like a block. We do sharp edges for a blanket, right? We have a rectangular shape. This is more barrel shaped. So you're likely to feel, even if you're perfectly balanced on your sacrum, you're likely to feel the lumbar getting encouraged to bend, feeling more into the prop. If you're not feeling that, totally fine. If you are feeling that, just note that it's a unique sensation and it's a little bit more depthful in the low back bend. So if it feels like it's too much, feel free to take your other blanket, make it a traditional rectangle, and just use the blanket like a block. I guess this is kind of like our version of a yoga wheel. Which was a big thing 10 years ago. For a while, it would be time to time. This old man would be somewhere in the house, and he'd hear a shifting, a settling movement. And for a while, it always was a sound that created an acute spike in adrenaline. But after hearing it enough times, the old man kind of began to know what it was. It was his stuff moving behind the door. And the noise would be getting more and more frequent, depthful, harder to ignore. You'd have guests over and they would notice and ask about it. And he'd always laugh it off the same way he laughed off the lock. It's just a mess. That's not a big deal. Give ourselves about 60 more seconds on this supported bridge. Really try to feel how your breath is interplaying with that lumbar bend. When it feels appropriate for you, we're going to lift our belt line high enough to remove the prop from underneath us. You can keep it in that roll if you want, but we're going to set it to the side for the moment. And we're going to let our spine come back to neutral. Potentially, this shift is a bigger shift to neutral than our forward folds were. So really allow for the settling of the spine here in the way that we would when we're landing at the end of practice in a more movement-based practice. We'll give ourselves just 30 more seconds here to really land and feel into what we've created in the lumbar. And then when it feels appropriate, let's bring our knees into a bent position if they're not already. So kneecaps point towards the ceiling. And then we're going to start to offer a little dynamic rotation of the knees. This is pretty intentional, trying to get out any stickiness in the lumbar sacrum union. So if you're feeling any stickiness, see if you can find your way into the full depth of rotation to work that out. Maybe just another 30 seconds of dynamic exploration before we settle into a little static hold. Next time the knees fall over to the left, let's let them settle there. Just release fully into this twist. Ease yourself fully into this twist. So the next spring rolled around. This old man heard this shifting behind the locked door almost daily. Wasn't sure if, again, it was moisture content, humidity, changes in fluctuation in temperature, but his things were moving in there. Every day he'd go by and he'd kind of just jiggle the padlock, make sure it was holding up. Might even push a little on the door. And when he did, he could feel that there was weight, there was tension against the door itself. And except for those fleeting moments when he jiggled the padlock, pressed the door, hear a sound, pretty much never thought about that room, the doorway, or the stuff behind it. Unless, of course, the odd person came over and brought it up. It's 30 seconds here on this first side. When it feels appropriate for you, let's bring our knees back to neutral. And we'll let the knees fall over to the second side, the right side. Just settling back into a mirroring static hold. Allowing your body to receive the second side of our twisting sequence. Remember that your breath offers this capacity to settle and land and receive the twist, the shape that you're in. Last 20 seconds here on this second side. And when you feel balanced, we're going to bring our knees back to neutral. And we're going to take both of our props. Now, if you still have them in those barrel shapes, that works great. You can use a block, you can use a fold, but we're going to go bottoms of the feet together, supported Baddha Sukhasana, supine butterfly. So blankets or towels underneath the thighs, bottoms of the feet together, knees out wide. Really trying to feel held and supported here. Really trying to land. Ground here. Spring carried on. The sounds behind the locked door became more and more frequent, louder. The old man started spending a little less time in his home, developed the habit of going on long walks during the day. Walks that would take him around the neighborhood, through parks, to places he never knew existed. Last 20 seconds here. And when it feels appropriate for you, let's bring our knees back to neutral. We can move those props out of the way. You're welcome to keep them. Ask yourself if there's anything that you might want, that you might need, that you might benefit from prior to Shavasana. And if there is, let's offer that to ourselves now. If you have everything you need, if you're ready for some stillness, and let's drift our way into that. Eventually, we'll come into a shape that we can just really ease our way into. One day when this old man was out on one of his walks, there was an unusual thud in his empty house. A thud with weight and a slightly metallic tang to it. Just finding your version of stillness here. man came home from his walk that day. He opened the door and he peered in through the kitchen, past the living room and into the hallway. And he didn't know it, but he'd solved a mystery. The mystery of what that thud was while he was gone. The padlock had fallen off the door. And almost as if the room had waited, as he entered his home, there was a creaking sound as the door of this padlocked room opened. The old man looked in and he saw everything. Just the way he'd left it. Start to bring some movement to our fingers and our toes. Movement to our wrists and our ankles. Our elbows and our knees. Let that movement work your way up to your hips and your shoulders, neck and head. Jaw, eyes, tongue. Eventually the entirety of the body will move. Utilize that movement to transition our way into a seat. In the seated space, let your spine get nice and tall. Feel the fluidity in your breath. Let your shoulder girdle get wide. Eyes closed. Something about this room and this man staring at this room delivered a message. The room didn't have to spill out. All the belongings didn't have to topple. I just had to be there long enough for the man not to be able to ignore them anymore. With our next inhale, we'll bring our hands together, heart center. And just feel that ease at the base of your throat. Over the course of the next 7 days, can you remember a very famous saying with a little twist? Ignorance is bliss until it isn't. And see how that impacts your experience. Thank you so much for being a part of this evening's practice and for being you. Namaste.